Well, I guess today we talk about the things we're not supposed to talk about. 1:30 here, Bradshaw with you on a Friday afternoon. All set to, talk about the usual sorts of things or celebrate the fact that it's going to rain tonight, which normally I would not celebrate except A, we're in a record drought, and B, it's the middle of December and still raining. So, the typical kind of Friday lighthearted stuff, and instead we get this. If you've been living in a cave, Newtown, Connecticut. Crazy man. I think that by default walks in to an elementary school, K through 4. And opens fire. At least 100 rounds fired, according to one witness. You always got to be careful on days like this because news kind of comes in fits and starts, and you'll get, kind of that immediate, reaction that turns out later to not be true. Mass shooting, Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. 18 to 20 children killed, a death toll around 30. The suspect, Ryan Lanza, well, I guess last week changed his Facebook profile. It's amazing the stuff these people leave behind. To an all-black outfit, to look as menacing as possible. 24 years old, that's what we're saying. And there's some connection to the school that we have yet to learn about. Where do you even start with something like this? Again, we have to reset the too soon to talk about it clock. Our friends on the right tell us, not to politicize these things, but that is how we deal with disagreements. There are other ways to deal with disagreements. Many of them involve guns and weapons. We choose words. That's what we should be disagreeing with and arguing with, even fighting with. But again, we live in a country with 300 million guns, and as of now, we are tied when it comes to like homicide rate. We're tied with luminaries such as Turkmenistan, while the rest of the first world deals with far less. Funny thing about gun ownership, because for the past few years, the trend has actually been fewer households owning guns, even as the number of guns increases. I think what is now the average gun-owning home owns 7. I don't know if anyone's done the breakdown. I'm sure somewhere someone has the stats. How many of those are handguns? And is the Second Amendment a relic of the 1700s? In the 18th century, Look at the amendment immediately following the second, the third. We talked about this before, about, the quartering of soldiers in homes. Is that a legitimate fear? And even if you don't discount the Second Amendment as, a historical artifact, I wouldn't mind the Supreme Court weighing in on what a, militia is, or what well-regulated means. Assuming those words were chosen specifically for a purpose. And again, for the longest time, I've been agnostic towards guns. I don't want them. I can tell you in my life, I've never needed one. Excuse me. I would prefer to not be around them. And I can only speak from my own personal experience. I have family members who own guns, but I don't have any family members who I think have ever been in a situation where a gun was necessary or even wanted. I guess I shot a potato cannon once and a couple times. But now, anyone can walk in, pick up an arsenal, relatively no questions asked. Get yourself some body armor off of eBay. Walk up to a school and not break any law until you actually open fire.
Having the gun anywhere near school property was breaking a law.
I broke the school, no...
yeah, that's a law. That's a federal law.
How many yards?
It's like 100 yards.
So he was one football field away from a school and hadn't committed any crime.
Yeah, sure. But see, it's all about intent. You commit the crime when you begin the intent. You already broke the law when you intend to. It's conspiracy to commit murder. I already broke the law.
Yeah, but until you open fire...
you could get arrested for it. If you left paper saying you were going to kill people and you didn't do it,
you're not allowed to just make random threats.
Yeah, but even if you hadn't made any threats, but somebody turned you in and said, I think he's up to something, and they found this information, but you hadn't done it.
I'd like to see an example of where that happens, because there's no shortage of people with an arsenal of guns.
Conspiracy to commit murder happens all the time. Why don't you look it up, Bradshaw?
You're telling me right now everyone who has...
when you make serious plans to kill people in
well,
your
yeah, that would be
arms,
making threats. You're not allowed to do that, even if you don't have guns. I can't post on... if I post online...
when you're
hey,
walking towards a school with guns with the intent to do it, you've broken a law. There's no way around it. You're making stuff up.
No, I'm reading the news, and that's the difference.
Actually, you've added a bunch of stuff to it.
What did I add?
Well, you started off with adding that there's 30 dead. It's 28 is the exact number.
Oh, but
it's 18 children. I mean,
18 to 12. I'm reading off of CNN.
Yeah, I'm reading CNN, MSN, and Just for Fun, Fox.
All right, so 18 to 20 children dead.
Yeah, it's a horrible event. I'm not trying to cast light on it.
But how many horrible events until...
how many horrible events until we go, what the hell is wrong with our society that we keep having crazies that would set it about it?
Well, I would say easy access to guns. Any crazy person can walk in, pick up an arsenal.
If I took my gun and put it on the table right now, would that suddenly make you a crazy person capable of doing this? Or would it make you a man 2 feet from a gun?
Flip that around. If I'm a crazy person, you want to put a gun 2 feet away from me?
No.
Because that's what the equivalent of this country is, that any crazy person can go in and buy an arsenal.
The problem is we have to judge everybody all crazy or all sane, and it is a far better and more moral standpoint to judge everybody as sane until proven otherwise. That's why we have innocent until proven guilty. You can't just go around and say, well, I think you're going to do bad things with this.
But we can't limit the arsenal that crazy people...
What limit? This kid didn't use some crazy arsenal. This isn't the Batman guy who had like near military weapons. He had a couple 9mm.
Yeah, that he bought just off the internet over the course of a month. $6,000 is what the Batman killer
I understand.
spent.
I get why that's a valid argument.
All right, so how do we stop that?
How do we stop that? First of all, I think internet gun sales probably a bad idea.
All right, see, this is what I'm saying. We can have
that's fine, but we're not talking about it. We're talking about these kids and how do we prevent this? And I think the only way we prevent this is identify what is making a society full of just crazy people that are willing to go do this. Because not only are they going to kill other people, which doesn't make sense, but then they're taking their own lives, which...
That's the only thing that does make sense.
That doesn't make sense to me. I mean...
don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of punching your ticket. I don't think anyone should do it. But at some point, and whether it's media attention or... that I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory and take a bunch of people with me. That changed.
I don't understand why. So I don't understand murder at all. But I guess if I was going to murder somebody, the thought behind it would be because they were going to do harm to me. So it would always, even if it was in a twisted and evil way, it would be always some kind of self-preservation. So the fact that these people aren't concerned about self-preservation and still do this is intriguing to me. I think we need to try to figure out where this senseless, crazy, self-harm inflicting, psychotic behavior is coming from.
And I would argue, again, there's nothing new under the sun.
Okay.
Go back to times immortal.
So we're going to disarm our country, follow my logic here, with psychotic people that are willing to go to great lengths to not only kill themselves but other people.
Yeah, because I think
you think that makes it safer?
Yeah, I think every first world country has crazy psychotic people. They don't have anywhere near the gun violence rate we do. Not even close.
And you think that thwarts them in any way?
Yes.
How?
Statistics.
Okay,
there are fewer of them. There are fewer school shootings. There are fewer mass shootings.
What if I wanted to kill a bunch of kids and I go to school and I poison their hot lunch? It's pretty easy to do. You could probably volunteer in a soup or a kitchen somewhere and get the ability to do that. That's not hard.
So we should, ban anthrax. Good idea.
Well, no, but
we did that.
There's tons of chemicals we could buy legally that have valid reasons to be owned.
Yeah, but man, if you want to do it fast, you want to do it quickly, and you don't care about the mess, guns are the way to go.
I understand that guns are convenient.
Again, I could put power lines over the school and wait for everyone to get some sort of bone cancer in 30 years, but darn it, I want immediate gratification. I'm going to use a gun.
But that doesn't make the person that does the power lines and bone cancer
I can build a school over a nuclear dump if I really want to, harm kids long term. I can put thorium in their desks.
First of all, you can't. But second of all, that doesn't make you any better than the gun guy. And that's what you don't understand is like killing somebody slowly isn't any better than instantly. Yes,
I agree. But you know what? We have a lot more time to do something if we find thorium.
Yeah, not if we didn't
in
know
their
about
desks. If we
not if
fine, mandate Geiger counters.
If somebody's put strychnine, which has reasons to be owned, and the kids' food, we would have no reason.
Yeah, but people aren't going around putting strychnine in entire schools
because
school lunches.
Because they have guns.
They're going and shooting people.
Okay, well, the problem is,
and they're going out in a blaze of glory.
There's no glory here. This guy's
in his mind.
His mind's freaking a side of a wall somewhere right now.
I mean, the problem, you say that they're crazy people. I agree.
Okay.
There have always been crazy people. There are crazy people everywhere. Problem is that in America, the crazy person can go, not even leave the comfort of their own home, order an arsenal, and inflict their craziness on others in a very short amount of time. How long did this entire attack take? A few minutes?
I agree with you on some of the things. The problem is, you're talking about taking everything, and I'm saying
that's one of the options on the table.
That legislation wouldn't have saved anything because if he wanted guns, he would have gotten a gun. You can't.
Well, again, we don't know enough about this guy. We don't know where he got his gun. It'll take time, like the Batman.
So that's not even really on the table yet, anyway.
But it's something we should talk about.
But he had two very common guns. guns that are police officers that maybe all he's got to do is befriend a police officer and steal his gun. Should we take theirs too, like Britain give him Bobby sticks?
No, I would give the police guns. And if you want to play with assault rifles and 50 calibers and all that stuff, we have plenty of armed forces for you to join up on. They'd be more than happy to put you to work with those weapons that people
and yet
seem
we
to
have
demand.
places like Fort Hood where they use military weapons to kill soldiers.
Yeah.
So,
But what does that have to do with guns and access to them?
Stop a crazy person from obtaining a weapon and using it. And he obtained military weapons, which I would argue are under lock and key most of the time. They just don't have those things sitting out. So it was a very planned attack. This wouldn't have thwarted this guy with a couple 9mm. It just wouldn't have.
Well, I want to know how the guy got the 9mm. That's access we should talk about.
I agree. If this guy was so mentally insane, were there things? Because some people just flip, and we have no tell, and that could be you. And so I don't think that.
And if I flip, should I be able to walk into any gun store in town?
If we know about it, no.
But hold on, I'm just saying. Right now, I walk out to my car in the parking garage, and it's a mess, and the guy next to me is parked way too close, and I decide I'm going to go falling down. Call me defense.
Okay.
And I'm going to drive to, I don't know what the nearest, one second.
You're taking too long. This analogy.
Siri, I want to buy a gun. Oh, it doesn't have my look. I don't have the.
Okay, so let's just say
at the worst case scenario, I have to drive 37 miles.
No, you'd have to drive to Urbandale to JLM Guns. That's the closest one I can think of. Okay, or there's a gun and pawn store just probably 10 miles, not even 10 miles this way. So
I can load up on guns, bring my friends.
You actually can't. You would have to go there. They have a 3-day wait period because I'm guessing. That you don't have a permit to purchase the gun. So you have a 3-day wait period to buy a rifle. You can't even buy a handgun. You have to go down to the sheriff's office, and then that's a 30-day wait.
To buy a handgun?
Yeah. So we already have this legislation that you're mocking. You don't know how it works, and you're making all kinds of statements.
You're right. I don't know about guns because I don't want them around me.
But you're saying, well, but we could just go down and buy it. You couldn't. If you went down to a gun store, they would say, great, go get your license from the sheriff, and that's going to take, even in an expedited case, 7 days. And in 7 days, you can have your gun as soon as they pass all your background checks.
All right. So what if I go to gunbroker.com here?
You can't buy with an FFL license.
So if I want a Glock 17.
Can't buy it. You have to have it transferred to an FFL license. At that point, the FFL license is going to require the same thing that we just talked about.
These things aren't that expensive.
No, they're not horribly expensive to own a gun.
Oh, God. I never knew they had so many accessories either.
Yeah, they got a lot of accessories. There's a lot of things you can do to them.
I have like 477, 188, airsoft, 1.
Yeah. I mean, there's a process, Bradshaw. See, I think a lot of people.
So I just have to wait till there's a gun show. Then I can.
Nope, you still have to have a license to buy at a gun show.
What about Craigslist? Can you sell guns on Craigslist?
The law as it stands right now is you cannot sell a gun to somebody that does not possess a valid permit to buy. And so whoever sold you that gun would be breaking the law. And the motivation behind that is there are so like if you break a gun law, you're pretty much screwed. So you couldn't just go to the gun show. There's no way for you to not steal a gun.
What's the quickest way for me to acquire an arsenal of freedom?
Legally?
Yeah.
You would have to go down. You would have to go buy or pay for your permit, and then you could start acquiring guns. Now, I know in some states you can only acquire so many per every 24-hour period. In Iowa, we don't have that, but most gun shops won't let you buy more than one in a 24-hour period. And if you do, they get flagged immediately, so you wouldn't be able to take those home.
So in like a day's drive, though, I could pick up.
Theoretically, you might.
This guy walked in with 4 guns and at least 100 rounds.
Yeah.
How long would that take to put together?
Theoretically, a day. If you had everything else.
No, if I just start from scratch.
Oh, you start from scratch? Probably 30 days.
All right, so 30 days, because we know he at least planned this out for the last 5.
So yeah,
It was
and maybe as soon as 7. I'm trying to remember last time I got my permit to purchase, because see, I have the training for a permit to carry. It takes 30 days to get my license for that. I use my permit to carry because it's better to have that than a permit to purchase, because that actually is a faster transaction once you have that.
What if I don't want guns around me?
Okay, so don't have a gun around you.
But I don't want to walk through a Sky Mall full of guns. Or
You
go
don't-
to a sporting event
I don't want
full of guns.
I don't
or
want-
I don't want churches, which I'm never going to go into.
Yeah.
To be full of guns.
I don't want liberals around me. I want to go to the Skywalk and not have to be affected by liberals.
Okay, but liberalism won't kill you.
I would disagree.
I could read the Communist Manifesto, and no harm would come to you.
Oh, that's actually not true. Communist China has killed a lot of people. Communist Russia, Communist China drove over people with tanks. I mean, you're using kind of bad things.
You're the one comparing communism to guns.
Well,
and you're saying that I bring bad examples.
I didn't
party?
compare it. I said liberalism. You wanted to walk in a skywalk. I never said anything about communism.
Yeah, because no one's going to pull out the little red book and end my life.
Okay, I don't want to be
even a crazy person.
I don't want to be around pocket knives.
All right.
So we should ban everybody.
Let's talk about what is the purpose of a pocket knife.
To stab somebody.
All right. Should people be allowed to carry pocket knives around? Make the argument for and against. That's what I'm saying we need to do. With guns in this
country. The problem is a gun in this situation wouldn't have existed legally. Now, I would raise that I have been concerned about our schools being targets for stuff like this, not necessarily from crazy people, because that hadn't really crossed my mind, but from terrorist attacks, because we saw that out in like Russia where they took over that school.
Now, that's a hostage situation.
It is a hostage situation, but I think an armed security guard wouldn't be the worst idea. Now, I don't want to give some people I know on my Facebook, we should give every teacher a gun. Well, first of all, not every teacher wants a gun. We shouldn't require them to have one.
Those greedy union thugs in the teachers' union.
Yeah,
you want to give them guns?
I'm comfortable with American people, even if we disagree philosophically. But yeah, I don't necessarily want them to have guns. I'm not sure if I would oppose them being able to have one in the classroom or not. But I definitely think like a security guard would be an okay thing. There are legislation really does hang this up as best as it can without saying people are guilty. I mean, basically, for what you're advocating, you would have to say...
Well, I'm not advocating anything.
I'm
playing the Glenn Beck. We're just asking questions here,
okay.
Except mine aren't from the land of crazy, and I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Okay, well, from your land, what the questions you're asking would imply that maybe we should do a massive gun grab, right?
That is one of the options.
And
yes.
we had this conversation before the show started.
But you just said you would defy it. You would take your guns and bury them in the backyard, or put them
I would have a lot to think about. In all fairness, I would have an awful lot to think about when it comes to that, because I do believe in an armed society. I think it's a positive thing, not because
in Somalia, is it?
Man, I wish the innocent people in Somalia had ways of defending themselves. Absolutely.
Yeah, but all you need then is more bad guys, which they happen to have.
Yeah, the problem is...
and your local warlord makes sure that the good person, even with his arsenal of freedom...
yeah, but at least they got a chance. They got no chance without it.
This isn't the A-team, man. When 50 people with guns show up, you don't have a chance.
You know what? At least the motivation, and I think you think that 50 people with guns show up is a great thing. But if 50 people show up with guns and they know that some of them are going to die, I guarantee most of those people are going to stay home because they're not going to be the one that dies. Nobody wants to die, Bradshaw. That gun makes everybody equal. It makes an 80-year-old woman the same as an 18-year-old male.
I know, but if I have 80 18-year-old males and only one 80-year-old woman, they're not equal.
You may get them in a rush, but they're going to take 2 or 3 with you. You know, and that's...
Then I'll use an RPG.
There we go into military stuff, but we're talking about citizens attacking citizens. I'm not talking about the military. I'm going to agree with you for the sake of this argument that if the military comes for my guns, that maybe I'll take 1 or 2 of them, but more than likely, if they thought that was a real threat, they would eliminate that threat. which would include killing my wife and children. Since I'm not willing to let my wife and children get murdered for the sake of my guns, I'd probably just give them up. But we're talking about...
No, I think that's what most people would do. If that, I mean, truly the Ruby Ridges and the David Koreshes and the crazy people would cause problems. I think a majority of people would.
I think the majority of people would lie about the existence of their guns because we haven't ever tracked them in America. There are so many guns, Bradshaw.
Should we track guns? Because the NRA has been very...
What's the purpose? And I'm not against tracking guns. My question would be... And
even better to track ammunition.
I'm not necessarily against this either. My question is, what is the purpose? Just like you want to know what the purpose of the gun, what's the purpose of tracking a gun? Is it so that you're familiar with people who start amassing...
That is certainly part of it.
Okay, that doesn't bother me. If somebody...
But hold on. A tool that can be used... I mean, just know that you're opening Pandora's box here. To keep an eye on people who are massing guns can also be used.
If somebody goes out, if a farmer goes out and buys a little too much anhydrous, they get watched.
Yeah.
That's part of when you do something suspicious, people are suspicious.
Well, that's kind of what
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm getting at people who buy guns, in a rapid amount of time.
There is something weird there now.
Looking to stop.
When I bought
probably should just be talked to. The same way, most people who write on the internet, I want to harm the president. All right. Don't actually have that in mind, but they're still going to get visited by the Secret Service.
Sure. And I don't have a problem with that. When I went out and bought my gun collection, I did buy it, a majority of it at once, about 2 or 3 of them at once, and then kind of got the others. And
would you be okay with an ATF person just coming by to talk to you?
I would be okay with a phone call, with them having somebody on site. If they wanted to come and talk to me, like what are the purposes, to look at the types of guns I'm buying. Now, I bought 2 pretty decorative pieces. I think anybody looking would go, he bought a 1978 Colt Python that's worth like $1,200 as a showpiece if he doesn't shoot it, and a nickel-plated double-barreled
so no one's
stage gun
give
guns.
That a second look.
Yeah, that's not really a big deal. But if I was buying, let's say when I bought my AR, if I bought 6 ARs and
what is the purpose of an AR-15? The only thing I've ever seen them used for is for show at Tea Party rallies. That mall shooting.
I enjoy shooting guns. I enjoy shooting military-like guns because as a young boy, I always fancied myself in the military. And so I
What if it was like a loner library? Like if
what Canada does, where you have gun clubs?
Something like that. Or I know there are places in Southeast Asia where you can rent an RPG and buy a cow, and the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Or shoot 50 caliber machine guns. Do something like that if you just want to shoot them.
Well, and that's a reasonable thing.
I don't know if you need to take it home with you.
Some people like to own them, and I don't have a problem with that. The problem is I trust the American people by and large, the majority of us. I mean, we act like, and this is happening more and more, and I think it's happening at an alarming rate. I'm with you there. But it's still not the normative.
We also don't talk about the gun suicides. We don't talk about
the gun suicides. Of those, I mean,
30,000.
Okay,
a year.
How many people hang themselves a year? You know,
I don't have that number. I'm guessing. I'm willing to wager that it's fewer than 30,000.
I would probably wager that. How many of those people that hung themselves or shot themselves would have hung themselves that really wanted to die would have found a way?
I think with most suicide, if you want to
kill yourself, you find a way.
You find a way.
Because like I used to contemplate.
I don't know. There are a lot of unintentional failures when it comes to that. I don't know. I've never been in that position.
So me neither. I used to contemplate that. If you wanted to kill yourself, well, you should take pills because you wouldn't know what was happening, or you should do this, or a gun would be instantaneous. You couldn't chicken out at the last minute. And some of these things are true, but the reality is that even the gun, you have the opportunity to chicken out before you pull the trigger. I mean, as you're applying pressure, you realize what's going to happen.
Let's walk it back for a second.
Okay.
Who's online?
Here? Let me get this. Go ahead and sound off.
The purpose of guns, right? If you want to say, to stand up against a tyrannical government. I mean, that's crazy talk. That's Ruby Ridge. That's Michigan militia. They have ordnance, you have handguns. It's not going to work. For defense, okay, I mean, I could strap a live grenade to myself. This will defend. You going to mug me? Pull the pin. That's
not
probably
really
not in
defense.
my best interest. Well, you're right.
And that's really not.
And that's my point, though, is that it's not.
I don't
defense.
see any reason.
Do guns cause more problems than defense offered?
That's the question.
That is the absolute question that cannot be talked about
let's
openly in this country.
Well, let's talk about it.
It can't be done by the power brokers. It can't be done in Washington. It can't be done in state houses.
Here we are. We're two guys that are on the radio that have somewhat of an influence. Let's talk about it. I think the answer to that question is that if people want to kill people, they will do it. And a gun is a great equalizer, and I appreciate that about it. And I also see some improbability of actually disarming the entire public. We've seen this with Canada and England, where a lot of the guns that do end up in gun crimes were guns that were merely hidden. They weren't. It didn't take much. So
in time that.
In time, how much time? You're going to be dead long before that ever happens.
So we'll say it's a gift we're going to give our grandkids.
Well, you don't even have any kids to be in that war. I mean,
I know that might encourage me to get procreating.
Well, maybe. I don't think that if you like that so much, go to Canada.
Why not bring the best of Canada here?
Well,
why do I have to move? Why don't I improve where I...
Arguably, based off of your worldview, Canada, with its socialized medicine and its higher tax rate and its lack of guns, would be the better place. Like, we would actually be bringing...
but that would be like all libertarians moving to Somalia.
That actually makes some sense.
Not really. No one should live in Somalia. Well, it's a hellhole.
Well, yeah, but I mean, for a group of people that think like-minded, to move somewhere else in a group makes sense.
Why not
That's
work
why
to
we
improve
came here.
the country I live? There's the point. I believe America would be better off with a socialized healthcare
because
system.
I would argue that more than half the people do not feel the way and as strong about this as you do, and you're not even...
Then I lose. That's the point. It's the people who say we shouldn't politicize these things.
Well, I think there's a lot of
people... They
people...
say that because they know they have a weak argument. I think you'd be surprised with the number of people.
I think there's a lot of people that do say that, and you can't help but... We're a political country. This is how we talk things out. But the reality is that we get angry. We're not talking out or having discussions philosophically. We're having... shout matches with random facts that we've generated that support our case. These aren't even good arguments. And so, should it be talked about? Yeah. Should we be grieving for these children? Should we note this is a tragedy? I can't stand the people.
That's obvious. I mean, that's not, you don't discuss
it's
that.
Not. People on my side of the argument, when Batman happened, you know what my Facebook looked like? Well, if I had a gun, I had stopped it. You know how,
that's just people with small penises.
You know how silly that is? I mean, that's not guys entering the argument either. I mean, I'm not saying your side is the only one that's unreasonable. I realize I've got gun nuts.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is the gun culture. When we were talking, and it was a multi-year process to change the permit law.
Sure.
And I'd have gun people on. I would talk to, the Iowa concealed.
I actually was on your show several times as a guest caller.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I've called you before.
Really?
Yeah, several times. Called you an idiot on the air once.
That's the best you got?
Yeah, you hung up on me.
But like literally everything these people talk about revolves around guns in some...
Well, and it's weird.
That's psychology. It's psychologically odd.
When anybody grabs onto one topic and doesn't let go, and that one topic becomes the center of everything they talk about... unless that topic is some kind of religious or philosophical standpoint, to me it's akin to craziness. I understand somebody takes religion and makes it their center. I think that's good and beneficial. I understand...
Like Fred Phelps. Anything taken to an extreme.
Well, but no, because Fred Phelps has got there's problems...
His religion disagrees with yours. No shortage of that in human history.
Well, but Buddhism doesn't bother me if somebody's very fanatical about Buddhism. I mean, there are religions that are genuinely...
I think something like that is generally a compensation.
Well, that may be, but you take a philosophical standpoint. I mean, you do realize you do this. You take liberalism and you frame your entire worldview based off of this.
Yeah, but I'm open to the argument. I disagree with Democrats. I disagree with progressives.
You disagree with Democrats because you're more liberal than them.
But sometimes I think my side's wrong, and I say that.
What are you guys wrong about? I'd be interested to hear this.
Well, just today... White House responds to elementary school shooting. Today is not the day to discuss gun laws.
Yes.
Now, in one context, he's right. Yesterday was the day.
Sure.
But accepting that right-wing framing, I think, is wrong.
There's some wisdom in this, though. Think about this.
I'm not an eco nut. There's a difference between, hey, we should probably take care of this planet. So far, it's the only one.
Yeah,
We shouldn't ignore the damage we're doing to it. But on the flip side, I'm not going to throw grenades at a Humvee dealership.
Yeah, let's take a look at the president's statement, though. Today is not the day. Now,
well, the president's speaking in 10 minutes. This was White House press secretary.
Okay, so the press secretary's speech. Now, let's be honest here. We have 18 families that lost children. Not to mention the adult loss, which I think is going to just get usurped. Like, they're going to be treated like crap because these kids are going to be over important, in the debate.
No, they're 5 years old. They're 6 years old. They're 7 years old.
I understand, but the loss of my wife would mean the same and be as devastating to me as the loss of one of my children. And as a father and a husband, I can comfortably say both of those are devastating.
How about we just we start by tracking ammunition?
To what purpose does that serve? That's all I want to know.
Because that you always leave behind.
The problem with this, and let me lay out an argument here. I'm okay with it. If the reason
I have to register every bullet,
if the reason you're tracking ammunition is to make sure that nobody's acquiring mass quantities for the intention of doing something evil.
Well, that's part of it. Is again, you should probably get a phone call at the very least if you buy 6,000 rounds in a month.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I know a guy that's got 10,000 rounds for every gun he has. It's a little overkill. I mean, what are you going to do with that, Mark? But
on the flip side,
we have people
when we
that
find a shot, a house gets shot up, we can track that ammunition, and if your name's on it,
you're going to get a call. I understand that.
You're going to get a friendly knock by Officer Friendly.
The problem is that we reload ammunition, and you'd have to make that illegal, which you can. Even if you made it illegal, that is not a hard process. Trust me there. I do it.
Where do you buy the casings from?
You collect them from the gun ranges, from discarded casings. You reuse the ones you already have. You can buy them at gun shows, just the casings.
I mean, it's not hard to make bathroom or bathtub gin, but
you're going back to this thing. But the reality is that you're right. It wasn't hard to make bathtub gin, and we had tons of bootleggers. And it was the most violent time in history for the U.S. So with the Chicago mobs and stuff like that, and the amount of bodies that happened, the reality is this is something very hard to do. I liked, I think it was Chris Rock or maybe it was Jamie Foxx, one of those famous African-American comedians that pointed out that if we just raised the price of a bullet to $10,000, you would really think about killing somebody because it had to be worth $10,000 for you to kill them. On the surface, I like that argument. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're not going to shoot a dude. But the problem is, first of all, a lot of the guns, to be effectively used, need to be shot. I think people that do have guns need to be professionally trained in them. So is it going to cost $500,000 to get somebody to where I'm going, I guess you can own a gun? I mean, that would be ridiculous. That would just be giving the 1% guns. And the last thing I want to do is arm the 1% and disarm the population.
I don't know. Through history, that still hasn't worked out well for the 1% when we finally reach a tipping point.
I understand, but I still don't want them to be the only armed ones.
Because the guillotine will only leave 90% of you behind.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying
that's actual class warfare.
I know. I'm aware. I'm aware of like the French Revolution and stuff where this happened. That doesn't make sense. So I mean, we have some real logistic problems here that need to be thought of. Besides just saying, well, this is what we're going to do, because it's overly simplistic.
No, I think the gun culture in this country needs to be neutered. That's not gun owners, but the gun culture. The fact we have guys like Leonard Boswell kowtowing to the NRA is a problem.
I think we need to address them. I think that we got some crazy, and I think we need to look at them and be like, you guys got you need to clean over here. This is getting messy, and I'm okay with that.
How do you clean? What do you say?
What do you say? You quit. This is the problem with the Republican Party. The Republican Party lets the fringe lead the party.
Well, that's who's left. I mean, that's
No, I understand that's who left. After two bad candidates, I'm sitting on the outside going, I'm not part of that. And I would be your born and raised middle class white collar Republican. That's who I am. That's my context. These people that are leading this thing, they're kind of crazy about it. They don't make a lot of sense to me either.
Well, no, I mean, guys like Wayne LaPierre, though, for whatever reason, wield tremendous influence for reasons I don't understand. The NRA endorsement doesn't. It's not going to win or lose you an election you weren't going to win or lose.
I'm just against lobbyists.
Anyway.
I mean, why don't we?
Lobbying's great. Any cause you believe in has lobbyists.
The problem is that
The problem is the causes that you don't believe in also have lobbyists, and in many cases have more lobbyists that are more well-funded than yours.
I understand that, but the art of lobbying is not just causes and they go around. It's very dirty. So I think we need reform there.
Well, yeah, there you would need to get Congress out of the money game, which is publicly funded elections.
Yeah, no.
That is, James Carville and Paul Bagala, in a book whose title escapes me at the moment because it's Friday, told the story of how Walmart buyers operate. And that is, if you are a buyer from Walmart, you're someone whose job it is, to acquire a certain product at the best price possible or choose which products, Walmart as a whole are going to carry. The rules put in place. I mean, you can't accept a can of Coke. You can't, have them mail a postcard for you.
Well, that's good policy, I think.
Well, it's obvious, I think, policy when you're talking about the number of millions of dollars.
Sure.
You don't want someone, getting all buddy with, Hasbro, and so that you end up paying more money for Kung Fu grips.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, Walmart's got its own problems.
Walmart has any number of problems, many of which you and I are paying for.
I agree.
But to do that in Congress and just say, hey, if you're going to run for Congress, here's your stack of money. By the way, if you're up against someone who's going to self-fund, if you're going up against a Michael Bloomberg who's got $1 billion, we'll match whatever they spend comes your way.
I just think no self-funding.
But hold on. Well, then you would run into, and this is the problem we ran into with Citizens United, which is the freedom of speech and money equaling speech in this country.
I think
it should be able to be done if you do it on the congressional side. There are already rules in Congress.
I think, though, public funding, I don't want to do tax funding. So I would say
that's what public funding
I understand,
is, which is you and I.
I understand, but I think what should be is voluntary fundraising for a term in the party. Then the party then the parties get together based off of what they've done. They either refund part of it or that's the number. You average out so that both parties end up at the same, and that's what they have. And you don't run a candidate, you run a party. Like the Democratic Party of Iowa would call you and be like, hey, we're gearing up for the next election. We're asking those that would vote Democratic to throw in a couple bucks.
Well, no, I'm saying, get rid of the fundraising entirely.
But I'm saying
people have no comprehension. If you are especially in the House of Representatives where you're up every 2 years, what percentage of your time is spent fundraising? Like half.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is I don't want, sometimes like this election, I wouldn't want any of my tax dollars spent at all on either one of those two buffoons. Period.
No, but that's how you keep the influence.
No. I'm saying you let the private sector fund the party without a candidate-less party. If you're a Democrat, you fund this. You can fund it based off the platform.
All right, so if I'm News Corporation, can I give $1 billion to the Republican Party?
You can, but the catch is that if the Democratic Party does not get that exact same number, you can't use it, and it just goes back. So a news corporation wants to give $1 billion, great. But if the Democratic Party only raises $100,000, then that is
Who do we decide what money gets sent back?
You know, that would be.
Does R. Lee Ermey's $100 donation go back, or does Rupert
I think
Murdoch's?
it goes back evenly. I think it goes back percentage wise, because that would actually keep people.
Why not
from
just pay for it
overgiving
ourselves?
Because I don't want.
We spend that on farm subsidies.
How many
so that
times
Michelle Bachmann and Chuck Grassley can make farm income?
But the problem with this is, how many times do we have elections where there are just people that do not like either person? I'm not okay with that.
Well, and then the other flip side of that is, who does the Green Party get equal money with Democrats
that would be
and Republicans?
I'm trying to find
does the Communist Party of America.
The real fair
John
way to
Birch,
do it. The real fair way to do it is all parties can be players, but they've got to fundraise without a candidate on platform alone, because that would not only help strengthen the platform.
We don't elect platforms, though.
We should.
Dude, look at the Republican Party platform. It's full of crazy.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because
people wouldn't invest in that now.
We don't elect platforms. We elect human beings. We elect representatives as a republic.
But you wouldn't have anything to base it on, because at any point fundraising relies on a person, then it becomes a popularity contest, and who can raise
politics.
More. I understand, and we both agree that's wrong.
No,
right?
I know.
Okay,
that's how it is and should be.
Fine, then let's work it out. They just have to raise. They can only use what the other person has. So
I would say the best solution is public funding. Let's get all influence out.
I have no interest in causing the American people to pay another tax.
It's not another tax. We have the money. It's just
we don't have the money. We're broke. What money do you have?
We're not broke. We
fiscal
can't
cliff.
Go broke.
Everybody's freaking out about the fiscal cliff.
What's wrong with the fiscal cliff?
I don't care about
Republicans have been telling me ever since Barack Obama was elected, how much they want to reduce the deficit. Now we have a fiscal cliff that's going to do just that, and they're freaking out.
Hey, look, I'm not worried about the fiscal cliff either, but I'm saying we're broke. Everybody admits we're broke.
I don't.
Well, you're in delusion.
No,
you are.
It's economics.
Economically, we're broke. We're
the reserve currency of the world.
We're looking at a double dip recession.
Yeah, so let's stimulate our way out of it.
Oh, fine. I don't care about your method there, because you guys won. I'm willing to concede at this point that that's the way it's going to go.
Nice of you to admit. That's farther than many Republicans can go.
I'm not a Republican.
You're a conservative.
But the reality is, we can't tax people and force them to pay for candidates that they don't want.
Why? I'm paying for the Iraq War. I certainly didn't want it.
You know what, though? That's a result of my candidate that won that I should have to own up to. And I don't.
So if Barack Obama advocates for the public funding of elections, then you're okay?
No. I'm saying
we won.
That's fine. I still don't want that. If it comes up to a vote, I'm going to vote against it.
Okay, that's fine.
That may be a reality.
I just think that's the better way of doing it.
I understand, but that's just adding a tax to you and I.
How about just, okay, fine, compromise. Flat donation, $100 is the max your amount allowed to give.
I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. I think capping the amount they can spend total would be another great idea. So, sure, you can fundraise all you want. You get $2 million or whatever
the way
it costs.
to do this legally is simply, if you exceed these pay limits, Congress is allowed to vet its own members. You can be expelled from the Senate. Ask our friends down south. I believe you could be expelled from the House. So do it that way rather than the Supreme Court getting involved, saying that money is speech. There are ways to do these things.
And then we have the problem of the president. And the thing that irritated me this time is everybody kept complaining about the millions of dollars spent flying around the country. So we'd have to not include that into his budget.
Well, that's the president.
You just heard me. We'd have to not include that into his budget.
Well, you run into the problem, because representatives have franking privileges. Which, if I'm Chuck Grassley, why don't I just send out a mailer to everyone in my district, in this case the state, every week, magically during the election season?
I think we make them pay for that magically.
Well, again, I think there are ways
we could legislate this.
Do it, but you realize that would neuter gun lobby influence.
That's okay.
And defense.
You know what? Here's the deal. We live in a republic, and if the republic doesn't want me to have a gun, whether I like it or not, I would have the choice between moving or acquiescing to the demands.
Well, and we circle back to where we started, which is are guns a net positive? You know, I say this about, you know, a lot of the things we talk about is, you know, you have to make an argument. If you want to ban something, if you want to keep something from happening, you know, it's on you to prove societal harm and prove that it outweighs the benefit. And that's a discussion we probably need to have about guns. I'm not telling you what to think, you know, what your decision should be on the outcome. But for far too long, just the question itself and the topic itself was verboten. You know, after the assault weapons ban in the early 90s.
Which did nothing, by the way. I mean, you could still buy assault weapons. They literally legislated, Bradshaw.
They were grandfathered.
They legislated that you had to weld on the, weld on the tip of an assault rifle, and that you could only have like 12-round mags. That's all it was. Now,
all the older stuff though was grandfathered.
Yeah, all the older stuff. But I'm saying the new stuff wasn't in any way inferior to the older stuff. You could unweld that very easily by taking a grinder at very minimal time and taking the bung off so that you could take it's a flash. I'm trying to think what it's called, but it's at the end of the gun. So
what about an assault weapons ban with teeth? Or how about you can own any assault rifle you want. It just has to have a barrel that does a 180-degree turn.
You know, even that I wouldn't truly be comfortable with. I mean, if you're really trying to ban assault weapons,
I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
ban them, not grandfather them.
Yeah, the problem with that is I just don't see that as realistic, because what do we define as assault weapons? See, a lot of the stuff.
Well, that's again, these are the ongoing discussions.
Yeah, because a lot of the guns that people can make look like assault weapons really were fairly innocent hunting rifles.
Oh, we're to the point now. This was.
I mean, you put lipstick on any pig.
But I mean, this was underreported when the dude went to shoot up the mall.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that casualties were so low is they don't highlight this, but I will guarantee you, because I believe Jordan Creek is run by the same company. They run drills with their security for just this scenario now. It's
I think
part
it's appropriate
of standard training how to deal with.
A lot of Jordan Creek's guys are armed.
Mall shooters.
A lot of them are armed. I think it's, that's my thing is, I think the gun conversation is relevant and important.
Well, again, if we have to give mall cops weapons, that's a problem.
It shows you there's a problem.
When Paul Blart needs an arsenal of freedom,
but
there's a problem.
Then we quit hiring Paul Blart. We hire. It actually creates job openings for ex-service people.
If I have to put, a moat and walls around my home to be safe, but the problem.
The problem isn't because guns
is the area around my house.
Yeah, but the problem isn't guns are walking into the area around your house. The problem is people with evil intentions are walking in with weapons.
And we know that there will always be, and have always been, people with evil intentions.
But the problem is you
work around that.
Yeah, you're trying to work around it, but you can't work around that.
But you're right. There are always going to be people there. And my argument is, should they be able to go buy an arsenal of freedom?
But we've discussed this already, and you're kind of trying to drive it back. You thought it was really easy, and we went through Iowa law.
Okay, so it takes me a week.
It takes you at least a week, if not 30 days or longer. And that's if you don't get red flagged. So I agree that maybe we need to look at our criteria, like perhaps if you're under psychiatric care, there should be a way to remove your privileges until you've been
the flip
deemed.
Side to that, it should be easier to get psychiatric care in this country than a gun.
That is also
that would go a very long.
That would be huge.
But these are all conversations that haven't been happening.
I agree. Hey, this is why Bradshaw, I don't come and do your show
because you like me.
Because I like the way you do it. I do your show because I do appreciate that you're willing to have the conversation. I'm not unwilling to have the conversation. I'm just saying that overly simplistic gun grab isn't a solution.
I'm not advocating for an just an outright.
Well, I think you could be convinced to, and that's what scares me.
Well, I think a gun grab is one of the options.
Well, but that's like.
But it's the same as the Old West and everyone's carrying six-shooters is an option. I just don't think that's a good one.
Well, and, you know, I could probably agree with you, and especially in the context of the Old West. However, in the Old West, what better way to keep the innocent guy safe than have him know how to use his gun and have one when we know we had bands of outlaws? And
you're not safe when you have an entire town full of, you know, drunk hoople heads.
The problem, though, is, I mean, and we're talking about historical context at this point, but the problem back then is they had no way of knowing who was where and where they were going and who they were. I mean, you got to think these outlaws went around, were famous gunfighters, and they didn't even quite know who they were because they didn't even have cameras. They had to draw pictures and hope that that picture was close enough to what Billy the Kid really looked like. You know, you literally had to know who somebody was because you said, "Oh, my name's not Jesse James. My name's Eugene Frankenfurt."
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, they would be like, "Oh, sorry," because you have no ID at this point. It made a lot of sense.
But it wasn't a safe society.
It depended on who you, on how you
from my experiences playing Oregon Trail, it was a very dangerous society.
Well, but that wasn't dangerous because you got killed on Oregon Trail. It's because you got typhoid. So I mean, that's, you know,
but would die of dysentery every time.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where it is what it is. Back then, there was no good way, and it was okay. I agree with you. We need to look at it in the context of today and look at the Constitution in context today, and if it's antiquated, we need to address that. I don't think this particular law is, but I think having the conversation is important. And I think you're right that a lot of people are going to go, now isn't the time. And the problem is we need to address the conversation now. And I think some of that conversation is, why are these people keep popping up? Why do we keep having these guys that are inclined to do this? Is also the conversation that seems to get avoided that I want to make sure gets talked about.
I get your point. I think you're dealing with human beings.
Okay, but we need to figure out, because the problem is that's not normative human beings. Me and you, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to go into a school and shoot kids. I can't even think of the thought. So there's only a small group of people that this is even possible with, and we need to work to identify those people. The people are the problem. The guns are a method, and I agree that we need to enforce legislation. We maybe need to look at our legislation. We need to take the appropriate standards. But the biggest overarching problem is, and has been, and will continue to be throughout society, the people. And how do we control that?
Well, and that's what the people have access to weaponry and arsenals of freedom,
but
when they're going to go all regulated militia on us.
Do you agree? Let me say a statement and see if you agree. Mm-hmm. A criminal is going to own a gun regardless of whether or not the government has grabbed every legal citizen's gun.
I disagree with that.
And what is your basis for that disagreement?
The murder rate in the rest of the first world. Because I don't think they have fewer bad guys per capita, fewer crazy people per capita. And they don't have anywhere near the homicide rate, and they don't have certainly the gun violence, obviously.
Well, we're talking about some of these countries have hundreds and hundreds of years. We need to fix the problem now. Kids are dying today. So I appreciate your point there that they don't have the culture that we've had for the last 200 years, but we've already had it.
In the United States, there's 9 gun deaths per 100,000.
Sure.
What do you think that is in the UK?
3.
Lower.
2.
Lower.
1.
Lower.
Okay.
0.22.
How many violent deaths happen in the UK though?
That number I don't know.
Okay, well that would be the number I would be most interested in next.
But 31 since Columbine, 31 school shootings, mass school shootings.
How are you
in the U.S.? Okay. You know how many were in the rest of the world combined?
Fine, I don't care.
14.
Okay, here's the deal. So you answered my question. That's all I asked you to do. Here's another one. How do we get the guns away from the criminals first?
That I don't have a good answer to. I couldn't answer that.
And that's my own. If you can tell me how we can disarm the criminals and the people that would do this first, I will gladly give you my guns when we can prove that's done.
The first step is obviously over the top. We talked about this. The last mass shooting this week, and that is over-the-top, draconian, where Caligula would go, that's crazy, punishments for the misuse of firearms.
I'm fine with that.
The NRA says that we, the people, put guns on a pedestal.
Sure.
Okay. We'll start by accepting that. Then the punishment for misusing this right should be, even higher. Should be
my only
grandiose, over the top, and that way you remove the casual misuse.
I agree. Let's do that.
Of guns.
I think though you would be surprised and shocked at how draconian some of these gun violent things, like the fact that I have had in the past a permit to carry. I don't carry now. I don't even have my permit valid anymore. But the fact that
I feel safer.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you do.
Because I know I irritate you.
But at no point was I ever going to pull my gun and shoot you anyway, if I had had one.
Yeah, I'm talking about when waving the gun in the cashier's face. And hey,
but
here's the security camera footage.
Assault with a deadly weapon carries mandatory sentences.
Of Richie Rich, and it's going to be, you're going away for the rest of your life, and you're going to leave prison like Brooks, and then you're going to get out, you're going to bag groceries, you're going to hang yourself in a crappy hotel room because you're institutionalized.
I am fine with that. I think when somebody commits a crime with a gun, and I'm talking about a flagrant crime, not you didn't have it locked up and the police officer caught you and it wasn't properly locked up. That doesn't bother me so much. But you wave a gun in the cashier's face, life in prison doesn't bother me.
This is where it should start and should carry on from there, because we have a problem the rest of the first world doesn't. And it's a problem that's diagnosable, and it is a problem.
Well, I don't know that the rest of the first. I mean, the problem is like look at Africa and the violence there. Now that's a disarmed republic where only the bad guys got guns.
Which one? Which country?
Most of them. Let's start with.
I'm comparing apples to
Uganda
apples.
and.
Well, I'm comparing apples to apples here. Let's look at the G8. Let's look even at the G20. We are in our own world when it comes
Europe
to
Europe has its own problems that are unique to Europe, and this is a
problem that is unique to the United States.
I agree.
But
we
agree it's a problem.
Yeah,
so we need to figure out a way to deal with it.
18 dead kids is a freaking huge problem. It's a I don't know how to respond to problem. I called my pastor before we came in and said, I don't even know how to talk about this. What do we do? And he said, I don't know. I said, this is sad. This is horrendous. I don't know what to do with this. This isn't something I believe by design we were designed to deal with.
Well, again, this is a man-made problem, and it is a solution that man can find. And I guess we'll leave it there for the week. We can go and I'll go play with my dog.
Yeah, go play the dog park day. Total dog park day.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous out.
It's
supposed to rain tonight. I didn't even get to Mitt Romney ripping off reporters. More of the business acumen.
Who cares about? Why are we still talking about Mitt Romney?
Oh, because it's great. I mean,
Yeah, the guy's a clown.
I know, but the Republican argument is he's great at business, right?
Uh-huh.
Why do you pay twice as much for ads and get fewer ads, like here in Iowa, by like 13,000? And now, and it's funny. Well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it
next
Monday.
week. All right, email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw, where I am mere seconds away from making fun of the Iowa GOP. Tune in for that. Or just go to thebradshawshow.com. You can read. I don't think my Twitter feed's on there, but you can get access to it. You can find contact info or go watch show archives.
Your Twitter feed runs live on it.
Does it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It works sometimes. It's the
last time I checked.
Widget. It's kind of screwy, but go check it out, thebradshawshow.com, and we will reconvene on Monday, 1:30. Thanks for watching here on Webcast One Live.